welcome back to Retrieving Sanity with your podcast host Keegan, and this is your podcast for all mental health, addiction, recovery issues, and topics. And today we're going to talk about, well, I don't really know. It's kind of a mystery even to me. Well, why are we doing a live stream then if you don't know what you're talking about, Keegan? Well, I'll tell you why, and it's because sometimes you just don't know what life is going to throw you in the middle of anything, literally anything. So, I kind of have a schedule to adhere to. So, Fridays at 6 p.m., I'm going to have a live stream. I don't know what it's always going to be about, but it's going to be about something. And it can usually be about mental health because that's what I think about a lot. Why? Because I'm a little bit beyond the line that I don't know if it's okay to say or not, but it's okay. So I'll let you decide what that actually means. If you think that I need to be locked up in a loony bin, then or the puzzle house, whatever you want to call it, then by all means. But I could say the same thing to you for whatever reason. So it's all about perspectives and what you do with that perspective, right? So with that being said, I do have to say I'm trying to figure out how to get my mic to not do the little craggly thing as I talk. So I figured out how to make it sound a little bit better whenever I'm not talking. So whenever I am quiet, it's quiet. But whenever I talk, you can hear that weird little static. So I got to figure that out. Anyways, no. Um, you'd think that it'd be like Keegan would definitely have a scheduled outline, like a calendar or something, like topics to talk about whenever he doesn't have a guest, or like he has a plan. Like gotta be planned out, right? No, like the furthest it's planned out is till November, and you may be thinking, Keegan, that's pretty far out, and yeah, that is very far out for me. Like I'm not used to going. I have stuff planned for the rest of this year almost for this podcast. For instance, if I were to stop like taking new interviews today, then I would still have content to last me the rest of the year and a little bit more into next year with the interviews that are. But with that being said, I have to keep taking interviews in now because you never know what's going to happen. Life happens, and people either have to cancel for life, have to reschedule for life, or just forget that it happened. And it's totally fine. It's one of those things that life is life, and we just got to roll with the punches and maybe roll with the white water rapids. That's it. So I was sitting here and I was thinking, like, man, I don't have a guest scheduled today, which was kind of nice. It was like, all right, I don't have someone on Friday, so I can do my usual little live stream solo session with y'all. And I was like, cool. But what do I talk about? Because I've had so many guests lately that it's awesome. But the problem is, in between episodes, sometimes I have a few days in between recordings, and sometimes I don't. So whenever I have those times in between, I'm either working on the podcast, doing some editing, or what I've been doing the last week or so, really just working on it at the same time, trying to figure out my blocks of time and how to do it. I actually had a weird little nightmare this morning, and it was a and it was like the very tail end of it, like right before I woke up, and it was because I didn't have enough time in the day to do all the things I wanted to do. Is very strange. Like that was it. I was just like, I just had the realization that I didn't have enough time to do everything, and I was like, ah, and that was it. And then I woke up and I was like, oh, that was weird. So it wasn't very scary, but I mean, it was kind of scary too at the same time because I have that weird anxiety that I got to get stuff done quickly, otherwise it may not ever get done. So I don't know where that one comes from. I got to figure that one out. So speaking of that, I got to speak to my therapist and set something up. And really, it's just figuring out how I'm going to pay for it, when it's actually going to happen, and yeah, when. But I mean, for this live stream, I was really sitting here like, what do I talk about? I don't know. Because I've just talked about a lot of stuff, and at the same time, I haven't talked about a lot. Like, you know what I mean? So, whenever I first started this podcast, I wanted to do an episode every day. I wanted to talk. I wanted to just get ideas out there. And it was great. It was cool. It was fun, but it wasn't conducive to the podcast, let's be real. But the problem with it too was that I would do a lot of recordings and not publish them or remember what they were about or stuff like that. So it's probably all gone now. I think it's all gone now. Maybe not all of it, but I probably have. Uh, I want to say there were probably about 20 or so episodes that have not seen the light of data, uh, light of day, like light of data because it was uploaded to the internet. Anyways, but those never really made it there for one reason or another. And so I was kind of like, well, what do I talk about today? So I was like, let me go through my episodes that I've done before and kind of do a refresher, maybe have a little bit of a different perspective on some things. And while at the same time I do have different perspectives, or maybe not different, but grown and evolved perspectives, it was just kind of like, wow, I have talked about a lot, and also at the same time, not really. And one of the most disappointing things is like, oh man, like none of my episodes has actually hit over 100 downloads. And it's a little depressing, but at the same time, it's like, so what? Um, the concept of identity, it has zero. That's interesting. I think that one was like, oh, you didn't upload it. Yeah, no file selected. That's why. So, seeing that's the thing too is like that one. Where was that? Page six. Page six. I don't know. But I mean, we're talking about like different titles like friend or foe, the program of programs, all inclusive, not exclusive, forgiving thyself, flexibility and adaptability with Simba, life without substance, trigger me timbers, I swear I'll stop, tomorrow, don't peek me, and so on and so forth. It's those things like looking at the titles, I'm like, what the fuck am I talking about there? And it's like, no wonder people don't want to listen to that because they're like, what is this episode about? Like, what is this podcast about? So I'm kind of like, what was I talking about in that one? Like the stigma of being an addict. Okay, that's a clear, concise title. I know what I was talking about, and I don't want to talk about that again. But then it was like interview with Jose Contreras. Okay, I did a second interview with him. Riverside fucking broke, and so that never saw the light of day. Like, there's the weirdest thing because like there were 30 different edits in that recording session. So I was like, I couldn't piece it together. It was so weird. And so I was like, nope. But then like disease or choice revisit. So I had already revisited the disease or choice episode. And so like there's all these different things that just kind of make me go like, oh man, like I need to redo some topics and title the episode better, and I also want to explore that topic with someone. So I'd love for somebody to be back on, and I have dropped the ball on that because I did set up something to where we should do another recording. I forget what happened, and then after that, we had a medical emergency kind of thing, and then after that is now the 2 weeks after, and so I'm still sitting here like shit, and I'm still picking my personal stuff up and getting everything back together in a fashionable sense towards like let's do this. So hopefully with Simba we can do maybe at least an episode once a month or so, and I think it would be really cool for the podcast because that is where a lot of the laughs come from and stuff like that is with other people. I can make myself laugh all the time. I don't need to do that on the podcast. I need to inform and entertain people, and sometimes me being silly does entertain people, but at the same time, I don't know who laughs, who doesn't, and it's one of those things that just be me. So I'll just be me. So I talk with my hands, I move a lot, I listen a lot, and so whenever I have a guest telling me their experiences and their story and stuff, like I know that part of them is wanting like direct conversation, direct responses and stuff like that, and I'm just invested in the conversation, what they're saying, and I'm like, uh-huh, yeah, tell me more. I'm excited. I'm interested. I'm listening. Like, come on, bring it. And then there's there's sometimes where it's like, oh, they wanted me to like have a quick response to that, or not just like, uh-huh, they wanted something else. And then I'll try to do that later in the episode, and then they kind of got the hint that I wasn't going to do that, and so then it creates that weird like hallway dance where it's like, oh no, I'm going no, going this okay, and then you just so if you ever find yourself in that weird awkward hallway dance where you want to go this way, that person goes the opposite way, but it's actually the same way you're going because it's and so y'all just get like y'all are both trying to get past each other but keep bumping into each other. You just stop, do a spin around them, and then just go. It'll work. Trust me. I've done it. It works. It's like, okay, just start spinning and just go in your direction. They'll be like, okay, crazy person. But uh yes. What was I going with that? Damn it. Um oh no, lost it. See, and that's another thing is that if I have a co-host or someone to, oh, that's what it was. And so at that time, it creates a weird, awkward episode moment where it's like, and so I just go, you know what, just take the floor, just keep running with your stuff. And I hated it sometimes, and sometimes I don't. But there are definitely sometimes where it's like, I wish I started the recording before the show started, and I wish I kept recording after the show finished. And one of the best examples in that, where I actually kept recording, even though I had no idea, Dr. Fred Moss, that interview, I wish I started it recording a little bit sooner, but I didn't hit stop whenever really was supposed to. And I think we talked a little bit more even after I hit stop. And it was still one of those like, damn, I wish I had that recorded. Not necessarily so I could publish it, but for like, hey, I forgot what he said, so I want to go back and listen. But there's a lot of really cool stuff that goes on in between uh, the episode interaction. And that's where the real connection comes into play with other people. And I love that. The problem is that again, I had a nightmare that I don't have enough time in the day to do things. And talking to people is one of those things that I want to do. I want to have conversations with people. I want to do that. I want to connect. I want to get to know them. I want to do this. I want to do that. And it's just so strange because, like, either I don't have the energy, I don't have the spoons, I don't have the mental capacity, whatever you want to call it, and I just can't bring myself to do it sometimes. And whenever I do have the energy to reply to someone, I'll get a message and then it's just fucking gone sometimes. And I'm like, I don't know what happened. It's just like, okay. I have to build myself back up to send a message. Sometimes I have to build myself up to read a message. I don't know what that's about. It's weird. But there's some messages that are sitting there that I need to reply to. But again, it's not one of those like, oh, I don't want to talk to you, so I'm going to ignore you. It's I'm literally trying my best. Please hang on. I will get to you. And it sucks. It really does suck. I hate the feeling so much. And I know that I probably sound like a broken record having said this a couple times during the live streams, but it is something that bothers me. So obviously, it's something I need to work on and get over or get through, rather. So it's something I'm going to do. But in the meantime, I'm just going to sit here and try to find a way to improve the podcast. And it's going to come in different ways, shapes, and forms. I'm going to see and see like that's part of it too. This is my podcast. I can do whatever I want with the podcast. But I want it to be like not game show esque, but I want it to be really entertaining in a sense too. Like I want people to be able to like listen and either laugh or sit there and scratch their head and wonder, like, I wonder, like, that's really thought provoking. But I, as a host, have that ability to do that with the show. But it's really hard whenever some of my guests have been amazing speakers. And I say speakers because that is their presentation style. It's very much let me stand on a stage and present my information to you with little uh, feedback, essentially. And that's totally fine. I love those kind of speakers, especially ones that either know what they're talking about or are just curious to learn a new thing and just maybe expand on what knowledge I have. So those guests I like to listen to because again, they are very much a presenter and I love it. I want those kind of people on there because they have their own energy. They will reach other people that other people won't get. But then I also want those people that we can have a real candid and flowy conversation and it just kind of go everywhere, kind of like with Zoe from, I don't want to say a specific city, but I'll just say across the pond. Her and I had some conversations and we just went down different rabbit holes and stuff, and it's fun. And so that's kind of the thing that I want to do is make it really like relaxed, but at the same time guided. And so I'm trying to figure out the best way to guide the conversation in some way, shape, and form to keep it structured while keeping it really laid back and relaxed. I don't know if I'm doing it well enough or not, but at the same time, I don't know. I think I am. Once I get the next report from the radio station, I'll have a good idea of where I'm actually standing at as a host or maybe show. Because let me tell you, I have got some messages, some emails that are like, these are some pretty cool people, and I have no idea how they are finding my show. And I know that the radio is doing some promotions. That's the word. Some promotions and some other things like that. And one person found it through Media Firestorm or whatever that is, and I was like, that must be something the radio did for me. I have no idea. But I also did a lot of stuff for the podcast early on because I was like, podcast obsession. I'm going to do everything with this podcast. So I bought the domain, I bought this, I bought that. And I'm sure there's newsletters out there that my email gets that I just don't see or I buy already unsubscribed and stuff. Just so much. But one of the cool things about being a podcaster is being able to listen to other podcasts now because I'm now finding some podcasts to be very entertaining, very not cathartic, but very I don't know. It's striking a chord in me that's making me go, "Oh, yeah, that's what it's like to have friends again or something, you know?" And part of me is like, "Oh, I should go get some friends in person." Like I do have friends in person within the DFW area. I do. It's just I am very much agoraphobic and it's not so much that too. It's a weird thing. While I was at Oxford, people were messing with my stuff so much that I am now paranoid about leaving my stuff alone. But at the same time, I'm not. But it's mostly because I'm still sketched out in this apartment, only to the point of it's still not quite home. You know, like that's the only real reason. Like it definitely is. Like in the DFW area, like this is the safest place that I feel right now, and so it is. But at the same time, that's not home. So that's the weird part. I'm just not familiar enough with the surrounding area and people to make me feel like I'm able to just leave everything around and just it'd be safe. And that's the thing too, is that if I go with that mentality, I'll never do anything or leave anything alone, never again, ever, because that's just how life works. You can't sit there and be like, I trust everyone all the time because I've known them forever. It doesn't work that way. But anyways, no, and that's the thing too, is that there's just a lot to do in Dallas in the DFW Metroplex. And I just, again, I don't have enough time to do everything that I want to do. I want to go hike. I want to go explore. I want to go urban exploring. I know that's weird for me, but I also want to, I don't know, go paintballing, go rock climbing. I want to go do pop-up podcast stuff, like just go to the wall and just be like, hey, here's some questions. You want to do like a little pop up podcast, like be on a podcast, and also stuff like that. And then one of the other things I want to do is either start up figuring out how to be a social worker or go to college and finish up my licenses for therapy. And it's like time. I don't have enough time. And then that also goes right back into the subjects. What do I talk about? What do I do whenever I don't have a subject to talk about? I just go off the rail. I'm very good at improvising in a way, but at the same time, I'm going in a weird circle. And if you've listened to the other live streams, you can tell that these things are bothering me on a level that I can't really eh, get at unless I talk about them. And here's another one of the weird things, my teeth. Um, yeah, it's not hurting, but it's also like not normal. It's the best way that I can put it. Like my mouth just knows like, all that alcohol just tore my teeth right apart, and the sugar doesn't help. But I have calmed down on the sugar, believe it or not. Some of y'all are probably going to be like, he hasn't, and then some of y'all are probably going to be like, I'll believe it when I see it, and then some of y'all are going to be like, he eats. So, um, now let's see. 21 minutes. Okay. So, let's see here. What are we doing with I don't know. I just wanted to get a live stream out there. Again, I have a schedule to adhere to. I don't necessarily have an audience to keep happy, but at the same time, I've got stuff to publish. So my live streams don't really make it to the post production stage. Really? I guess that's right? Because they're live streaming. It's like, hey, I live streamed. You watched it? Cool. You watched the live stream. Congratulations. You watched something that other people aren't going to experience with the podcast. So it's like, it kind of makes you special. So, I mean, that is cool, right? You got bragging rights to retrieving sanity that you watch the live stream and not just the guest interviews. So if you actually want to know like what's going on in the life of Keegan and stuff, then just watch the live streams. And that's another thing. Like I wish I had set a actual consistent schedule for my own self with podcast. Let me explain. So, whenever I set up my Calendly originally, I didn't know how it really worked. So I said, here, just take a spot. And so then they started to take spots. And I was like, oh crap, I don't want them to take that spot. And I had to do it because Tim was like, here, choose your spot. I didn't want that, but you took it. So I have to do it. And so it kind of went on that way for a little bit. But in the end, where it actually led down to was I have figured out how to do the blocking and stuff. So if say I want no more than 3 interviews in a week, if 3 pop up and get taken, then the rest of the week is blocked off. So I also have other rules in there like I have to have 3 hours in between interviews if they are on the same day. I think I can only do 1 interview on a day and then stuff like that. But I left the actual recording week fairly open. I did that stupidly because it was like, oh, I want to interview this person, but their availability is only between this time. So it was like, okay, I'll compromise and open up my availability to get this person in there. And then it was like, okay, then that person had something similar, so I'd keep it. And so I was just like, okay, so we're just going to have selected hour slots throughout the week and do it that way. And it's been definitely better, but I think I kind of really should have done it where it's like Sunday, Wednesday, and Friday, or Sunday, Wednesday, Saturday, or something like that, where it's like, hey, I have the day that I'm doing the recording and the live stream and stuff like that, and that's what I'm doing. I'm focusing on that and this, and then the rest of the week or whatever is done. No, I did it where it was like, all right, bring it on. And then I'm sitting here going like, stay away. It's not necessarily stay away, but I mean, it really is like, uh, I I really, really, really wish I was making money with this because then I could pay someone for post production and it'd be like, hey, I will do an episode a day and someone else will take care of the post production and edit it, send it out, all that. That would be great. I would focus on doing interviews, but I would miss that connection point that I have with my guests. Now, some of the guests, we don't make the strongest or best connection, before or after recording. That's fine. That's just some people. I'm not the friendliest person all the time, and I'm not. Did I really say that? I mean, that's true. I'm definitely not the friendliest person all the time, but I'm definitely not the one that sits there and goes like, "Stay away, don't talk to me." Oh no! Like, okay, we're done recording. Bye. Click. It's like, all right, like we got stuff to talk about. Now there has been one or two episodes where it's like, hey, I had something scheduled and then you scheduled because I didn't know how Calendly worked, and so people would be like, hey, I scheduled, and I'd be like, crap, I didn't block that day off or that hour off. And so there has been instances like that where it's like, okay, we're finished recording, I'll email you later. I gotta go, bye. But it's not like, okay, I don't want to talk to you. It's like I literally have other stuff to do. And guests have done that with me as well, and that's fine. I have had one person actually sit there and be like, okay, bye, click. And I was like, whoa, okay. So I mean, that's the thing too. And I have been stood up. I have, yeah, but I want that connection with my guests, and I can't really have that connection if it's like I've spoke to 200 people in the last 3 months. What? Like, that is so cool. If you don't want that connection, but like at the same time, I want the connection so that I can sit there and be like, hey, I had you on the show 4 months ago. How have you been in that time? What have you experienced? What has gone on in your life? And how has that affected you and your mindset, your perspective, your work, all that kind of stuff? That's the kind of relationship I want. But at the same time, whenever I take in new people and new people and new people and new people, and again, new people and new people, then it just creates this weird concept where it's like if I'm going to have this revolving door of people and like repeat guests, I've got to get something figured out. And that's the thing, is that with the system that I have, everything's being blocked off to where it's like, hey, I have people scheduling in November. The last one that just scheduled that I saw today was November 22nd. Oh shit. Like, that's almost December. In fact, let me look. Let me. And I probably shouldn't even talk about it like this because it's like, remember how I was like, hey, we might have an interview with so and so. And then I was like, no, I'm not going to say that because I'm going to jinx myself. I was right. So, anyway, if I go to my booking page, let's see. We're now looking at November. Yeah, I've got the 23rd, 27th, 28th, 29th, and 30th open. So, and then most of December is open. So I have Tuesdays and Wednesdays off from recording. I might do Thursdays now too. Because actually, I may not. I don't know. That's one of those things I'm going to have to speak with the wife about, and that's totally fine. Oh, wait, look. Hmm. I don't know. But that's kind of the thing is that I'm going to have to sit there and be like, hey, like, I would love to talk to you again, but it's going to be in like 6 or 7 months. And part of me is like, that's cool. But part of me is also like, I don't want to lose that connection. But at the same time, I do have that weird thing where I don't lose like friendship points for time of absence and stuff. The worst thing that will happen if I don't speak to someone within an allotted amount of time is that I will forget their name. That's just who I am. Yeah, it's just going to happen. I will speak to you. I will meet you. I will get to know you. I will forget your name. It, Same thing goes with everyone I went to school with. There are some people that I will remember their name forever, but that's because I went to school with them as I was growing up. And again, I believe out of the class of around 42 people or so, I grew up with like 12 of them from kindergarten. So I think those names all have in my head forever. It's totally fine. But there are some instances where, like, oh, what is his name? I'm going to say this. So I'm not going to say his name, but I will say that we worked at affiliated together. So I will say I do remember his name, but I only remember it because he gave me some nicknames, and for some reason his name just is unique, so it's easier to remember. But whenever I had to get my car serviced after affiliated, he was working on the car, and I was like, I know you, I know you so, but I forgot his name in the moment, and he was like, hey, you, and he listed off like the two nicknames and my name, and I was like, oh, shit, uh, yeah, you, I remember you, dude, what's up, bro, and oh man, it just made me feel so bad. But then after I drove off, I was like, oh, that's his name. And I was just like, I feel like a douche. But that's the thing is that I just am bad with names. It took me, how long did it take me to remember my boss's name? Like 2 weeks. So don't tell him that. Um, but I can't have that kind of connection with people to where I remember them well enough. If I am like, hey, I spoke to you once for like an hour and a half 9 months ago, and I've spoke to 500 people since then. Like, I don't want that connection. I want the one where it's like, hey, what's up? I'm going to name drop someone that's been on the podcast before because guess what? They've been on the podcast before, so I think it's okay. So let's say, hey, Crystal, what's up? Haven't seen you again. Uh, haven't seen you. What? Haven't seen you since so and so. Um, and stuff like that. Or what about Catherine? Or what about Elizabeth? And stuff like that. Like it, I want to be able to be like, I remember you, and I will forget my guest names, but I want to be like, I remember you and what you were talking about. Now, at the same time, on the flip side of that, if you were to go, hey, what did so and so talk about? There's going to be a little bit of like, hey, how much of a time was there in between episodes? How much have I either repeated back to that episode, that topic, that speaker, or anything in that line? Because depending on the month or so, I'm going to have a lot of interviews that actually show up, and we have great interviews, and I'm spending 2 to 3 hours on that episode, like with the person, or uh, but the everything else, blah blah blah, life. So either I'm going to remember someone or I'm not, and I can sit there and write every person down. And I've thought about doing this, write every person down, what they were talking about, and stuff like that to help commit it to memory. But at the same time, I'm going to have some kind of catalog of sorts for my own quick reference. So I'm thinking about doing that anyways, but I'm lazy. So I'm going to probably type it out and everything like that. So it may not help as much. I don't know. Is there a difference between typing and writing? I'm sure there is. So I'm probably going to have to write it out if I really want to get the maximum effect. So, um, I don't know though, because at the same time, hmm, no, hmm. I think at the same time, if I were to sit there and do that, I that would be interesting to see if I actually have a bias or something. Um, hmm, that would be really interesting. Like catalog my own, but that's kind of what the aftertakes are for, right? So the aftertakes I started because I was like, I want to do little background, like behind the scenes content, and so again, live streams. But the aftertake is my thoughts on the guest and the subject. And I know some of my aftertakes, I've been like, the guest was awesome. talking about the guest, the guest, the guest, and then there's been a couple of aftertakes where it's like the guest was awesome, the subject was awesome, and then lead off into my own spiel about whatever that is. And I think that's okay because it's kind of my perspective on it or what I got out of the episode. It can be literally whatever it is because it's after the episode. So there's been some things where it's like I wish I talked to them about that. And then again, some of the things I speak about on the aftertake, I'm like, damn it, I wish I had that other stuff on the episode so other people would get it too. But and then it's like I can't really do some of that because some of that information is literally directed at me on some of those after recording stuff. But I can't really say that all the time for everyone else. But at the same time, I don't know what's going to work for someone, so I might as well just say it. So if it worked for me, I might as well just say, "Hey, this worked for me. See if it works for you too." So one of the things we can do for the podcast is really just share it, just hey, check it out. Like uh Tim Thomas. I need to speak with him. That's right. I need to speak with Tim Thomas, the former special operations operator from Australia, and speak to him about breathwork and how my little bit of drumming and breathwork has gone. And it has not been the best because I have been forgetful, but I have been doing some of it. So the sheet of music that I said I had, I don't know where it is, so I'm going to have to find it. Um, or maybe I just didn't look in the right spot. I don't know, but and see that's the thing. I have Xander. I need to speak to Xander. I need to let him know how juggling has been going because I have been trying to keep up with it, but again, I'm like just bleh. And that's one of the things about being a podcaster that no one warned me about. I will have a lot of stuff to read, go over, and study all from my guests. My guests have sent me plenty of stuff to read and dive into. Speaking of, if you checked out the episode Dopamine Mountain with Andy Y. West, be sure to check out the link. Oh, that's right. Okay, so here's the deal. Here's the deal. You ready? So, Andy, she was kind enough to let us know that there is a free download for her book. So, I have that link for a free download for Dopamine Mountain. If you want that download link, send me a message and I'll send it to you. She said I could even put it on the episode description. So I may do that because some people could really use that book. I know I could use that book. So, anyways, no, and my guests, a lot of them have given out their information to be like, hey, you can find all my stuff here. And it's like, cool, go, everyone, check that out. And that's what I love about this stuff is that this is about sharing knowledge, information, wisdom, and experiences, and just the story of life, humanity, because we all are living the same kind of thing, just different avenues, perspectives, and different actions, inactions. And the only difference in it is who's doing it. And if it's not you, it's someone else. And it could literally be anyone else. So it's the one of, hold up. Let me get a little scientific on you real quick. There's this theory out there that blows my mind, but whenever I think about it, it, it makes a lot of sense and I hate it. But there's a theory out there that there is only one electron. That's it. That's all there is. Just that's it. Just one electron. I think there's more to the theory than that, of course, because an electron does not make up everything. It also, in a sense, it kind of does. But the theory is that this one electron is just going back and forth in an endless loop of every single possibility of literally everything. So, and that's the thing is that time and space do not exist to that electron. In fact, well, time and space develop around the electron in a sense. It's really cool and also really weird. But like whenever you learn that time and space are really weird and quantum physics are really weird, then you'll figure out that a lot of everything that we know is not knowable. Correct. That more along the lines. Well, and it's not even that it's wrong. It's just that everything that we know is different. And that's the thing is that just because we're mistaken about it, just because we're misguided about it or whatever, does not mean we're inherently wrong, but it just means that our perspective is limited. So that's how it kind of goes with everyone, everything. If you don't know it, you're probably afraid of it. And until you experience it, you will maybe stay in that permanent, like, afraid stage. Like, I don't want to do anything with that whatsoever. But you just don't know until you try, right? And that's the thing is that a lot of people just don't want to try new things. And for me, that could even be so much as like going to uh, Barnes and Noble because I want to get a new book. You know, that can be scary for me. Like if it wouldn't be in different Barnes and Noble that I've never been to, and it's honestly really not. It's just an example that I came up with because it was the first thing that I could think of that I actually want to go do. But I don't actually want to go get a book from Barnes and Noble because if Jordy heard me say that, she'd be like, "Why didn't you want to go last time I went?" And I'd be like, "Because I didn't think about it, and I don't actually have a book I want." So I just said it because it's a place to go, and my last name's Reed, and so I can read books. But um, sorry, last name joke, um, surname joke, but it's not like surname like Sirname. It's whatever. And that's one of the things. You should never have to explain your own joke. If you have to explain your own joke, it's not funny. So, anyways, with that being said, we're probably going to end it here. Why do I have 5 Facebook notifications? Oh, okay. That's people responding to their Mary Womb evacuation days. So, if you're one of those people that have had a Mary Womb evacuation day, Merry Womb Evacuation Day to the mortal plane of existence, my friend. I hope it's a good one and that you have many more to come. So be sure to check out Retrieving Sanity on your next birthday, and maybe there will be something there too. I don't know. If I had a birthday episode for every person that follows the channel, let's see, there's 78 on YouTube. There's 35, 36 on Podbean. So, like, 100 birthday episodes. So, technically, I could sit there and I could do 365 Mary Womb Evacuation Day episodes, like things, and I could post them. And I'd have a birthday episode for the whole year. So I could just send it to whoever has a birthday on that day and be like, hey, I made you an episode. Don't do that. That's lazy. Actually, no, that wouldn't be lazy. That is a lot of time and effort. However, AI videos can do that for you now. So yeah, that's another thing. AI videos and AI podcasting. It is coming up. It is something I am staying away from. The most you will see me do AI with anything on this podcast, I messed up that sentence, is using Google Gemini to talk to or some other chat service to get ideas from or to help me understand something before I present or as I'm presenting it. And then Riverside with its shorts and stuff like that. But aside from that, unless we can get some kind of like super duper awesome thingamabobber that's like, all right, cool, then nah. Like, I'm trying to think of like what would be the thing that would make me go like, yeah, we're going to get AI into the podcast for sure. And it's like I don't really know because like Gemini or like something similar, Gemini Live would be really cool to speak with if I could say, hey, ask me these questions in this order or so. And it said it would do that. I tried it, it didn't do that. So I was like, damn it. But if I could do it that way to where it interviews me, that would be cool. But I can't really have that kind of conversation that I want to have without, say, Simba. Simba, where are you? Actually, it's where am I? Because you messaged me. I fucked up by not messaging you back. So we'll get back to that. Whenever all of my, uh, I was going to say shish kebabs, but I was going to say spoons. So I almost said spoon kebab. So whenever I get those together, I will message you. We'll figure everything out and hopefully get something set up soon or than later. And again, that's on me, not on you. So I apologize. It's one of those things that everything right now is just like, fuck, don't have enough time. Again, reiterating it for a second time, or is it a third time? Having a nightmare about not having enough time in the day to do things. That sucked. Like, I've I've had some nightmares that were weird. That one wasn't necessarily weird, but it definitely made me go like, "What am I stressing about?" And it's just about getting stuff done. So I've got to buckle down. I'm not about to try to buckle in a seat. In fact, I read a study that says sitting for prolonged hours actually shrinks your brain. And I'm like, damn it. And I was like, well, what if I just like am more active or I do exercises and stuff like that? And it's like, it's not necessarily that. I'm like, even doing brain games and stuff like that is supposedly not going to really stop the shrinkage of the brain if you're sitting for prolonged periods of time, because essentially the argument comes down to sitting for prolonged periods of time reduces blood flow to the brain, which can then eventually shrink the hippocampus. And if you don't know what the hippocampus is, look it up. It's important in the brain. I'm not going to dive into that right now because I myself forget a little bit to the point of telling you with actual confidence what it actually is. But basically, if I'm not mistaken, it's a part that regulates body temperature and stuff like that, and a lot of other vital aspects to the brain. Um, but like I said, it's been a while. I may be confusing that with the I mean, the one that I can't say. Amyl- Amylagada. It's the one I can't say. This is damn it. Um, but we're going to leave this episode here. So I'm going to just say thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. I can't really say thank you for listening. Well, I can say that if you pulled this up on whatever you're doing and said, I'm not going to watch that, but I'll listen, then that's how you do that. So thanks. But you still haven't pulled up on your video or whatever. So thanks for attempting to watch. So, I kind of want to do shout out to another podcast, and I did the shout out. What was it? The day before yesterday. So yeah, um, Distractable, the podcast. They're the ones that are making me go like, man, I wish I had Simba back on the show. And there's some other people that I think I've either asked or want to be on, and it's just, and then there's the other thing. I want to do all this other random stuff with the podcast, but I have to find the time to get the other stuff in because it's not consistent. It's not like, oh, anyways, I'm going to shut up and just leave it here. So, don't do what I do. Create a schedule, follow the schedule, actually exercise, eat healthy ish, brush your teeth at least once, probably twice a day. Definitely don't drink and drive unless it's like sweet tea or water. If you're drinking unsweet tea, what are you doing with your life? And, anyways, aside from that, oh, if you're drinking unsweet tea, it's probably because you're going to bed, right? Right, yeah. So, with that being said, love yourself, love everyone else as best as you can, and whenever they can't seem to be loved, just tell them, bless your heart. And then just move on. That's it. That's all you have to do. So, with that being said, love you. You have a good day. I'll see you later. And until next time, you have a good one. Shalom. Oh, yeah, wait. Hey, I remember. I remember.